All right, let's go now to this very important story. This morning, the crisis in Haiti is deepening. Gangs in Port-au-Prince cutting off food, fuel, and water supplies across the city. The escalating violence threatening the safety of U.S. citizens who are trapped on the island. Nearly 1,000 Americans in Haiti have filled out a crisis intake form to try to evacuate. Joining me now is Republican Congressman Cory Mills of Florida. He has personally, with the help of a strong team, rescued 23 Americans from Haiti since the country was overtaken by gang violence. Congressman, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it.
Take us behind these missions that you're conducting. Who have you been able to get out? I know there's been some high-profile names, but also just Americans who are in trouble. How do you do this?
Well, and a lot of times the members of Congress, we all work together. Everyone likes to think of this as being such a partisan play, but all of us work together in our offices to establish kind of a crisis management plan. And our office has kind of headed this up, if you will, going back even to the Israel debacle. And so we'll gather names. We'll try and find out who's all co-located so we can try and get in and look at consolidation points, look at makeshift HLZs, because obviously the ports and the airports and things like that.
HLZs, can you translate for me?
HLZ, helicopter landing zones.
Got it.
And so my apologies for my acronym.
No, it's okay.
Being military, you tend to throw those out a lot. But no, so, with the gangs, with Jimmy Chevalier, with G9 taking over, Mencken Khan, all these gangs essentially taking the airports, the main ports and maritime, as well as for the main roads, you don't have a lot of avenues to be able to try and get these and achieve a rescue. And so we're actually looking at not just coordination of individuals to try and consolidate, but also making sure that we can get everything from risk analysis to where they're moving, when the actual lockdowns occur, how we can move these individuals, and then also how much time we're going to spend on the ground, because we are moving in a very, very small team. But our best asset is to have the concealment of darkness, but also the speediness of our extractions.
Yeah, I mean, how do you ensure that you're safe when you do this?
Well, you can't ensure 100% safety. It's a risk management play. I've spent 7 years of my life in Iraq, 3 years in Afghanistan, Kosovo, Pakistan. I've been blown up twice by roadside bombs in '06 in Baghdad. I don't think safety and security is my number one priority sometimes. Either that or it's just my ignorance to go into things like this. But, the bottom line is that this isn't a Republican-Democrat issue. Americans are at risk. American lives are at stake. And Sunday, I just pulled out 13 more, and one was a 2-month-old baby, and one was a 3-year-old little girl. These are
families are very lucky
kids that
to have you.
Basically may not have had a future had it not been for getting them out before everything really does turn on its head like it is right now.
Yeah. And this, of course, Haiti, you mentioned what you did in Israel, rescuing people there, and also Afghanistan. I mean, walk us through that.
So in 2021, obviously, we fall of Kabul occurred quite rapidly, and there was obviously a botched withdrawal, and there was a failed military strategy, and this is my personal opinion, and that resulted in thousands being left behind. And one woman and her 3 children in particular, who were born and raised Amarillo, Texas natives, had been left behind. She had made multiple attempts to work with the State Department, multiple attempts to get to the main gate, showing her blue passport as she was told to do, and was denied entry while the Taliban and everyone who had the outer circle of security extorted them. And so after about 11 days, and unfortunately even my own government kind of thwarting our efforts, we ended up conducting the very first successful overland rescue that had ever been done. And then we subsequently went on to almost 36 people. Fast forward to October 7th, the horrendous and barbaric incident cost 1,200 innocent lives there in Israel. I was on the ground by October 11th conducting our first rescue of 32 people. The following day with 45. We ended up getting 255 out in totality, and then we ended up getting 96 just by ground evacuations across the Jordan River.
Really remarkable. One of the people that you rescued in Haiti was Mitch Albom, who many Americans may know from the books that he's written. What was it like to talk to him? What did he have to say to you as this was unfolding?
Well, it's funny. I had never met, and this is an interesting thing. No one I've ever rescued have I ever met or did I know personally. A lot of times the first time I've ever met these individuals is when I actually get them out. Mitch was no different. And in fact, even just understanding communication security and operational security, we don't even give the people that we're pulling out a lot of heads up. And he kind of alluded to that because they have local contacts, they have friends, and they don't mean to actually do anything nefarious, but sometimes they text their locals and say, hey, by the way, just want to let you guys know I'll be leaving today, or I'll be doing this. We'll miss you. We think about you. So we can't even give them that opportunity. So I gave Mitch about 31 minutes. So the time that we actually got into Haitian airspace, you have 31 minutes. By the way, it won't be 2 drops, 1 drop, only documents. You can take a laptop bag, drop luggage, and that rescue were able to get 10 out successfully.
So basically, you say to him, sorry, you got to leave everything you got. You got one bag.
We originally told him 2 lifts, 7, and then 5. And then we come back last minute, and again, looking at the scenario, looking at the prime minister who is just getting ready to resign, looking at how that vacuum of power is going to be filled by Jimmy Chevalier and the rest of them, we realize that there may not be a second lift. And so going in the concealment of darkness, going in at like 3 o'clock in the morning roughly, spending a minute, 7 seconds on the ground, hot loading these individuals into the aircraft while it's still running, and then being able to get out. That was our best asset, and we're at that point landing in people's backyards in this helo. So my hat's off to our great team. Like I've got a guy who's been with me for a long time, former special operations, and our pilots who are absolutely phenomenal and have done these types of search and rescue missions in the past.
I got to say, you're clearly extraordinarily high speed. Like, Congress, really for you?
Well, I'm hoping that, like, one of the things I've always talked about was getting back to what it was to be a statesman and representative, getting back to trying to bring confidence to Congress and to the government that we actually do care about the American people. And, that I don't care what district you're from. I don't care what state you're from. I don't care what your political affiliation is, your gender, your race, your faith. What I care about is that your blue passport, you're an American holder. And that used to mean something. I want to bring that back to what the United States had, which is that to be an American was a thing of pride.
Well, I think, I certainly am still very proud to have a blue passport. And I hope that, that is something.
We're the freest country in the world, and I think we're a shining beacon for our constitutional republic, and I think that's something that we should continue to be very proud of.
Congressman, I'm so grateful for your time. I want to expand this conversation out to our panel, but I'll start with you because there was a hearing on the Hill yesterday. We showed like a salty minute from it, but we didn't talk about the substance around Afghanistan. And you mentioned Afghanistan policy. We heard from General Mark Milley and another general who were involved, overseeing the military during that pullout. I know you're on the committee that dealt with that. What did you learn yesterday, if anything? And what lessons are there in terms of making sure some of those mistakes never happen again?
Well, look, one of the things that both General McKenzie, the former CENTCOM commander, and Chairman Milley, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, had made clear is that their advisory was not what actually took place. And in fact, that President Biden had gone against their advisory. Their advisory was to leave 2,500 in place to be able to maintain Bagram Air Base, which would not have resulted in the release of the Bagram prisons, which is where the suicide bomber actually had originated from that cost the lives of 13 brave heroes. But I think that what we also looked at is putting political optics above military strategy is not exactly the best idea. Looking at who can actually, from a policy perspective, maintain the command and control on the ground when it comes to conducting a NEO. I think that's really something that it's a non-combatant evacuation operation. So this is where we would basically draw down. I mean, think the fall of Saigon, think the helicopters coming on the rooftop of Afghanistan, et cetera. These are the things where there's a bit of a shift on who maintains command and control. Is it the ambassador? Is it the State Department? Is it the Department of Defense? And so really drawing a new policy thing, which is what kind of Chairman Milley had brought up, which is a great point on who actually leads that command and control structure, I think is a real key issue, because I do put a lot of fault on the State Department this and their failures because they acted way too slowly. And even Chairman Milley and McKenzie had said that they should have conducted this NEO weeks and weeks ago, but the ambassador there had refused, even though there was 23 diplomats who had wrote a dissent cable saying, if you do what you're about to do, you're going to get people killed, you're going to leave Americans behind. So they were well warned, both at the Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State level.